Oh, hi there. Do you want to know how much you'll spend on rent here in Australia? Keep watching to find out. The first question that I get asked is renting a property in Australia expensive? And my answer, as always, is it depends. This is the same case as grocery prices. Everything depends on your lifestyle, the type of property that you want to rent, the size, and the city or state or suburb you're going to be living in. Some states are cheaper than others. For example, renting a property in Sydney or in Melbourne is going to be much more expensive than renting a place in Adelaide. Your rental costs will also vary according to how far you live from the city center or if you want to live near a beach. That is, if you want to live in a suburb that's walking distance to the city, or even if it's close to the beach, probably you're going to be spending much more money than if you went farther from the city center. And as I said, if you want to live in a 3-bedroom house, your rental costs are going to be much higher than if you live in a 1-bedroom apartment. But if you have a job here, your salary will allow you to afford all your rental costs, so don't worry about that. And the next question is, how much does it cost to rent a property here in Australia? In order to know how much you will be spending on rent, it is very important for you to first decide what area you want to live in. Let me explain. If you're coming to Australia for the first time, you probably have no idea what suburbs you want to live in. You don't know what a nice area is, so everything might seem a bit all over the place. So here I want to give you a really good tool for you to be able to compare the different suburbs, to know what suburbs are popular here in Australia according to the state that you want to live in. And with that information, you're going to be able to calculate your rental costs. Let's jump on the computer. I highly recommend this site from realestate.com.au that allows you to compare different suburb profiles in each state, as well as your average rental costs. Let me show you. Here you can enter the suburb or postcode, but because you have no idea what to look for, you can keep scrolling down and you can use different filters. So basically you can select your price per week and then you can select the state. You can also keep scrolling down and you'll find popular suburbs in the state that you want to live in. For example, here in Victoria, you have a list. Let's click on Elwood. As you can see, here you have the suburb profile and the different demographics. You also have a map that shows you where the suburb is located. This site also gives you the different property costs for buying and renting. So for example, if you're looking to live in a unit or an apartment, you click on unit and you'll have the average price per week as well as the different type of properties. For example, for a 1-bedroom apartment, you can expect to pay around $310 per week. And this is something that I wanted to mention as well. Rent prices in Australia are given on a weekly basis, but you pay your rent monthly. Then you have supply and demand. Then you have the different listings. This is if you want to rent. You can click here and you'll get all the properties that are up for rent. Then you have more information about the different demographics, the different people that live in Elwood. Here you have a brief description of the suburb and photos of the different types of properties. And yeah, as you can see, this is a really good tool to know which suburbs are popular in Australia and in the state you want to live in. You can compare the different suburb profiles and the average rental cost per week. I leave you the link to this site down below in the description. And another tool is of course Google Maps. You can walk around the area, the suburb that you're interested in, and have a look whether you like the area or not. Okay, some very important things that I want you to know when it comes to rental costs here in Australia. As I said before, prices are given on a weekly basis, but you pay monthly. So let's say that you want to rent a property in this suburb, Elwood, and you're expected to pay around $310 per week. Well, per month, this will be around $1,300. How did I get to that number? You need to multiply your weekly rent by the number of weeks in a year, that is 52 weeks, and then you need to divide this number by the number of months in a year, that is 12, and that will give you your monthly rent. Tip: you can also use an online rent calculator. There are many online. For example, the Victorian government provides this one where you can calculate your rent per day, per week, per month, per year. It's very useful. Check it out. Okay, another cost that you need to consider when renting a property here in Australia is the bond. This is a deposit, usually equivalent to 1 month rent, that you pay upfront once you signed your rental contract. And once you leave the property, you're given all that money back. But if you caused any damage to the property at the time of living, the landlord or the real estate agency are going to deduct the repair costs from your bond. So treat all your rental properties well. Another question that I get asked is, do properties come furnished? And usually not. This varies according to the property, but usually they don't. So this is an additional cost that you need to consider because you might have to get your own furniture. There are many places where you can get secondhand furniture for a lower price or even for free. I'm going to make another video about that, so stay tuned. Are bills or utilities like water, gas, electricity, internet included in your rent? No, usually not. So you have to organize your connection to water, electricity, and all utilities yourself, and then pay these separate from your rent. Okay, how much are you going to pay for utilities or bills per month? Again, this depends on your lifestyle, the city that you're living in, and the number of people in your household. But on average, in a household of 2, you can expect to pay for water around $60 per month, and you pay water on a quarterly basis. For electricity, you can expect to pay between $70 and $100 per month. For gas, $60 monthly, and internet around $60 per month, but this depends on the provider. Okay, the situation is a bit different if you decide to live in a share house. Let me explain very briefly. According to data from flatmates.com.au, if you rent a private room in a share house, you can expect to pay between $100 and $300 per week, depending on the city you live in. For example, the average cost of a private room in a city like Sydney is around $289 per week, whereas if you live in Melbourne, it's around $216 per week. But if you go and live in a more regional area, you can expect to pay around $153 per week for a private room. So as you can see, there is a huge difference according to the area you're going to be living in. If you're living in a share house, bills are usually included in your rent, but this varies from share house to share house. You're going to find all these details in the listing. And also, share house usually come furnished, but again, comes down to the share house. So as you can see, if you decide to live in a share house, your rental costs tend to be a bit cheaper than renting an apartment for yourself. And when you want to look for a share house as well, bear in mind that you're going to have to create a profile of yourself. And I highly recommend taking the time to write this profile, because this helps the landlord to know a bit more about you and to know whether you're a good fit for the house. And this of course goes for you as well. If you're considering living in a share house, always inspect the place. Living in a share house is not an easy task, so you need to make sure you will get along well with your housemates. And if you want to know a bit more about how to find a property here in Australia, watch my next video. I talk about the inspection process, what documents you need in order to apply to get a property here, and what happens after you sign your rental contract. And if you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe so I can keep making more content for you. I'll see you soon.